Kathryn here with Handmade by Circle Art Designs. Well, today on the mat, let's make a tie necklace and matching earrings. This is project 2 for me for January, and it is a bead box bargain project using those December beads that just lay on my desk as I was taking a break. Now, if you've never made a tie necklace before, this is a beautiful piece. There's no clasp or anything to it. It's just a long running string of beads. But it is so versatile and so fun to wear. Isn't that lovely? These are just gorgeous pieces, and I can hardly wait to get started and make this project with you. So let's turn our eyes to the mat. As I turn my eyes to the mat on our work table, I see my beautiful and blessed mat. I really love this piece, and I'll clean it off just a little bit here, but I am thankful and blessed. Today, I have enjoyed the sun. It has been 50 degrees out here. I can sit in my rocker in the back with a cup of coffee and enjoy the birds and the squirrels and the dogs and really give thanks for the beauty that the Lord has put all around me, beauty that's found even in the winter when things are asleep and waiting for that bursting forth of spring. And the reason I'm enjoying it today is because the Lord is truly going to bless us with winter. In the next day or so, we will be having in the teens at night. Now, a lot of y'all live places where that's not a big deal, but here in Texas, that is a big deal. And I am really looking forward to it. We even might have a flurry of snow on Saturday. Now that is amazing. So, as I put my mat down here, what are you thankful for today? It's a new year. We're not very far into it, and it's a great time to make a habit of counting your blessings every day. So how about you? Again, I ask, what are you thankful for today? All right, let's go ahead and find the center of this mat, and we will get started. As I said, these will be pieces from the December Bargain Bead Box. We're going to start right here, and I think I have it, but this is a dyed agate, and it is a Lilation agate, and look at this beautiful green. Isn't that pretty? This is a 6mm in a round, and it is so pretty. We'll be doing just a couple of projects using these, and then I will incorporate them with the December Bargain Bead Box with the rest. The ones I've just shown you are some 4mm crystal in the faceted round, and this is called an orange coral, and it is lovely. Up next are these gorgeous porcelain vintage orange beads. Now, I love working with these, and they really have that vintage look that I just love to work with. And these are 10mm. Then these are glass beads that were given to me. They're in a 5mm pearl, and they are just slightly bigger than that orange coral faceted that I just showed you. And I'm going to be using those as well. I've also pulled out my 12O crystal luster. I'm just putting out my palette, making sure what I might want to use and what I might not. And then I'm also going to get out this 8O and that gold, and it is a seed bead as well. So I have some 12Os and some 8Os out. I've pulled my daisy spacers, and these beautiful little daisy spacers are 5mm across spacers, and they will work really well with the 5s and the 6s. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get used to breathing into this new computer, because every time I take a breath, it goes. Okay, so this is some Japanese tie cord. This is in camel. It is a 0.5 5 millimeters, so it should go, or 0.05 millimeters, so it should go into the holes really well. And this is what I use when I make these tie necklaces. All right, let's continue on. Sorry about that. I just talked right over. I also pulled out some number 1 bead along crimps. We're going to put these crimps out on the mat, and then we're going to go ahead and cut our cord the length that we want it. We will have a little on the ends that will clip off, but for the most part, you want to make if I want a 30-inch necklace, I want to make about a 32-inch cut on my cording. I am taking and I am putting on a crimp right here. We're going to start out and build the end of it. So when I use this, because I'm doing a cord necklace, this tie necklace, I'm mashing this crimp straight across. I mash it first with my chain nose pliers or straight nose pliers, and then I'm going to go ahead and mash on either side, pull on it to make sure it will hold, and then I'm going to take my lighter and I'm going to a lighter or whatever you're using for your fire, and I'm going to melt that end and tap it with my finger to make sure that it's flat. And this will keep that crimp from coming out, and it will give you a nice end for the piece. Now I've cut 35 inches of the cording, and I'm beginning with an 11-0 seed bead in the gold, and then another 11-0, and then I'm using that beautiful orange coral from the December Bargain Bead Box. Next goes on another 11-0, just like that. And then, I'm sorry, I'm saying 11-0. These are 8-0s. I apologize. And then the little 5 millimeter pearl after that coral from the Bargain Bead Box, a 5 millimeter daisy spacer, then that beautiful 6 millimeter dyed agate from the Bargain Bead Box, another daisy spacer, just like that. Then the porcelain, and that big, beautiful 10 millimeter porcelain. Let's go ahead and move this down a little bit so you can see so far, and I will review it. Let me give you a picture. Okay, so this is going to be one end of your necklace. So I have already put on the crimp, mashed across, cut it, melt the end. Don't cut it all the way down to the crimp. You want to have a little bit of this cording to melt and tap so it'll be flat. Then you're going to put an 8-0 gold seed bead, an 8-0 gold seed bead, and then that beautiful faceted coral orange crystal round. That is so pretty. It's a beautiful orange coral. It's just gorgeous. Then you're going to go ahead and, I looked today, and that is still up in the extras on the sister shop of Bargain Bead Box at the Bead Box Bargain. Okay, so then you're going to put on your 8-0 seed bead, and then one of the 5 millimeter glass pearls. I'm going for a very classic, very vintage look for this piece. So once we do that, instead of following up with a seed bead, because we're getting into the slightly larger beads, we're going to go ahead and put on that 5 millimeter daisy spacer. Then we're putting on the 6 millimeter in that dyed agate from the December Bargain Bead Box, and then another daisy spacer. And we're going to follow this by that very large 10 millimeter porcelain vintage orange floral bead. So if you have followed me for any length of time, you know I like to go small to the middle and go large, and then go back down till I get to the size I want this particular length of necklace. This will be in end links and then the link that goes around the body. All right, so let's continue on. All right, so what I was trying to say was this will be 3 different sections. You will have an end link around the body length of necklace, and then an end length of necklace. So now I put on that porcelain bead I just spoke of, another daisy spacer, that dyed agate, another daisy spacer. So we're just building down on what we have previously done. And this is a really classic vintage look. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I just love that. And it is very classic, very vintage in its look, kind of timeless. And so when you build this kind of jewelry, when you make this kind of jewelry, it is something that you can wear for years and years. It really does never run out of style. And it is something you can pass on. So we have ended. I'm trying to show you this. I think it's so pretty. So we've ended with that daisy spacer. So if we're thinking about building down, then we're going to go ahead and go to the glass pearl. And then you will go ahead and go to a 8/0 seed bead. Then your faceted orange coral. And let's go ahead and get on an 8/0 seed bead. Just like that. There you go. And I only put 1 on this top. And the reason being is I wanted a little tip for the very end of my necklace. So now that I have got that on, it is time to start that next section. And so I'm going to use the 12/0 seed beads for this. And I don't know if I told you, but there was a lady that I think her name was Mary Kay, and she suggested that if you put double-sided tape on the end of your finger, it would make it easier for those little things to stay on your finger. And I think that's a great idea. I had already filmed this, but I'm going to give it a try. I think that is really cool. All right, so I am going ahead and putting on the crystal. Now later on, I will give up on this and I will pull that end out. I don't like to do that because when I use the lighter and pull the end, it always hurts the tips of my fingers. So I have to finally get tired of it before I do. But if you'll see, I have got 5. Let's go ahead. 6. And I believe I put 7 on this. I always start out with 7. I look at it and go, is this good enough? So let's see what this looks like. Now see, that is just real pretty. And I really like that. And these give it a space so you can really admire the different sections of beads. It's kind of like using chain, but this is the very tip of one side of your necklace, and it is gorgeous. Righty, so next up, let's go ahead and let's quit playing with that. And let's see here. I have put an 11/0 seed bead, not 11, a 8/0 seed bead in the gold. I've put on a pearl, a daisy spacer, one of these green, that beautiful green agate or dyed agate, a daisy spacer, and another pearl. And let's see how I like this. This becomes the playing part. I knew exactly what I wanted. And I will tell you, one of the things that I did not take into consideration when I first started building this is how many beads I had in some of those. Because I had a general idea but I wanted to play with it. And also, when you use these pearls, these are glass pearls, and they have a white dye on them, and sometimes you have to stick a needle through it to get the very tip unplugged, and that's what I did there. So I'll show you this whenever I get it done. So again, we have a 8-0 pearl daisy spacer, the agate daisy spacer pearl, and 8-0 seed bead. So let's see here. I'm not sure, but I think I'm going to leave that for just a moment. This is where you are gracious to yourself. Part of the fun of making your own jewelry or making anything is being able to play around with it. If you always feel like it has to be perfect and you make a plan and you're afraid to move from your plan, then when the creativity that God gives us kicks in, you won't enjoy it as much, because you're always thinking, oh my goodness, why didn't I do that first? But that's okay. Be gracious to yourself. Alrighty, so here we're going ahead and we're putting on the 7 and those crystal seed beads. We're putting on 7 of the 12 O's. Let's go ahead and move this down. Remember, we're doing spaces, and this is the way I have this right now. Now, I really like this. When I started designing this, what I didn't take into consideration was if I wanted it to be green heavy or the orange coral heavy. Whichever one you repeat the most, that is the color the eye is going to pick up. So let me get you a picture and I will show you what I decided to do. So we're starting off on this left-hand side. Once I counted my beads and I decided what I wanted to be my main color for this piece, and I know I should have done them before, but I didn't do them before. I was just getting this done because I was anxious to be with y'all again. But starting with the left side, on that very far left side, what we have is that piece that we started out with where we put our crimp. Then we put on 7 of the crystal 12-0 seed beads. Next, we have a gold in the 8-0 seed bead, the pearl, the glass pearl, a gold, the coral orange or orange coral faceted, and then another seed bead, a pearl, and a seed bead. Now that is our component 1 for this extension of one side of our necklace. Now for component 2, after we put on 7 more of the seed beads in that crystal and a gold, we will put on the orange coral faceted bead, then another gold seed bead, then the pearl. And remember, we are going from a 5mm pearl to a 6mm in the agate, and that little crystal in the coral is 4. So it's 4mm, 5mm, 6mm. So if you have your own beads, you can go ahead and plan this in whatever color you would like. If you do not have these December bead box bargain beads still hanging around. So again, seed bead, the coral, and the 4mm, the pearl and the 5mm with another gold seed bead between them. Then you have a daisy spacer From the daisy spacer, you're going to put on that 6mm agate, another daisy spacer, the 10mm, and remember, this is the porcelain, vintage porcelain in the orange floral. Then another daisy spacer, your 6mm, a 12-0 in the an 8-0 in the gold seed bead, then your 5mm glass pearl, then another of the gold seed beads in your 4mm, followed by a seed bead. So on this second component, it goes seed bead, 4mm seed bead, 5mm, daisy spacer, 6mm, daisy spacer, 10mm, daisy spacer, 6, seed bead, 5mm, seed bead, 4mm, seed bead. And then we're going to finish this up with the 7 of the 12-0 crystal seed beads there. 11-0s will work just as well. They're just a little smaller, so you may need to add one more to get the same space between your components. Therefore, that way you have the second component in your necklace. Once you have those 7 crystal seed beads on, you're going to do component 1 again. Then you're going to do the 7 and you're going to do component 2. So the component that we started out with the crimp, is the same component as component 2, except for the added beads at the point in the crimp itself. Now you're going to go ahead and you're going to do this, repeating it till you get to the next section of the necklace. How long will that be? I don't know. I don't know how long you want your necklace to be. If you want it to be 36 inches, it's going to be longer than if you want it 40 inches, or maybe you want it only 25 inches. It really doesn't matter. What you're going to do is you're going to take from your breastbone and you're going to measure about a hand's width or a hand and a fourth down from your breastbone. And that is where the next section of bead will be. Once you go a hand's width, hand and a fourth down from your breastbone, take your measurer and measure all the way around the back of your neck to the neck side, and this is for a long necklace in the same spot. This gives you the length of the next section of your necklace. You'll take that length and add the section you just finished times 2, and that will be the length of your finished piece. I hope that made sense. All right, here we go. Math is not my strong point. I hope that made sense. All right, here we go. But before we do, would you please like and comment on this video? And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, would you please subscribe and share this with friends and family? And let's grow together. I really enjoy doing this, and I hope you enjoy watching it and trying some of these projects for your own, or on your own, I should say. Thank you so much. Okay, let's get back to what we were working on. I've gone ahead and I thought about using a needle, but I'm going to go ahead and use just the beading cord itself. I have gone ahead and I have melted it and pulled it to a point just like that. I'm putting on 7 of the crystals. You will notice that I have a good portion of the second section already done. That is because it did not record. Thank goodness that this one did. So I'm going ahead, I'm putting on 7 of the crystals. in that 12-0, and then I am going to go ahead and put an 8-0 of the gold, and then 7 more of the crystals, and then another 8-0. So this portion that will show from just below the breastbone all the way around the back of the neck, once you finish the section, you should finish on a gold bead. You will put on 7 of the crystals and a gold seed bead. 7 of the crystals and a gold seed bead. Now, I have a lot of people that I watch and friends that they can get this to work for them on a needle. I have tried both the split needles and the big eye cording needles. And what I find is that at the section where it bends over the needle, I can't get them through. So I just melt the end, pull it out so it has a small little cord point on it, and then I do this. And this is a good picture of what I've done. Again, what we're doing is we're taking at the end of your necklace and you're making all the way around from about a little more than a hand's width under the breastbone, and you're going all the way around. And again, what it is a gold seed bead, 7 of your crystal, a gold seed bead, 7 of your crystal, till you get it finished. Once you have got it both underneath the breastbone on same side, you're going to go ahead and do what you did before and just continue this all the way down. Now then, I want my piece to be a little longer on one side than the other side. So at the very bottom, before I put that last piece on, I am changing it up and adding some of this some of the coral to it that I haven't done before. Do you have to do this? No, but I like the staggered look, so I wanted it to be just a little different on that side. Let's go ahead, and we have put component 1 on, and now we're putting on component 2 just like we did before, so that this is going to be following the same style that you did on the first side of the necklace until you get to the very end. And I will show you what I did there. Right, so now we're down at the very end, and I have taken and I have added this beautiful little piece right after my next to the last component 2. And this would be a coral, a pearl, an agate, a pearl, and a coral. It's not one that we've used a lot, but it will add the length without adding a complete component 1. Once I get that done, component 2. Once I get that done, I will go ahead and add that very tip on. So let me see if I can't get you a picture. Now in this photo, you can see that I have finished the second side of my tie necklace in the very same way that I did the other until we get to component 2, the very last component 2 that we will put on this side before we do the necklace tip. Here is where I did the change. Once I finished my component 2, I went ahead and did the component 1 again. And now I have put on my 7 crystal seed beads, and then I have done a gold seed bead, a orange coral in that faceted glass, another seed bead, a pearl, a daisy, the agate, and now I'm going to leave off the larger of the 10 millimeters. I'm going to leave that porcelain bead off. I want to make sure I have 2 for the matching earring. And I want to add length. Now, if you're not doing matching earrings at this point, you can just finish it out the way you have been doing it. But I wanted to do the earrings, but I still wanted one side to be longer than the other. So once I have done the agate, I put on a daisy, a pearl, a seed bead, the orange coral faceted seed bead, 7 more of the crystal seed beads, a gold seed bead, and then I have a pearl. All right, now let's go ahead and see what I have here. I have put on a pearl, a seed bead, the orange coral, a seed bead, a pearl, and a seed bead. So that is our typical component 1. So what we have added really would be a component 3, which is exactly like component 2, except it's missing the porcelain bead. All right, we're going to go ahead and put on 7 more of these beautiful little crystals. I love these crystal seed beads. They are just amazing. I think they are so pretty. And I love that they end up being a large portion of this tie necklace because they reflect the light just beautifully, and they really add to the the delicateness of this necklace. Now, isn't that pretty? And as you can see, when I line them up and I have added that extra component 3, it gives me the length that I need. And now it's just a matter of doing or finishing off this necklace the way we began it. We're going to go ahead and put on that orange coral, and we've ended with a gold seed bead. Then we're putting on a seed bead. Then we're going to go ahead and put on one of the pearls, and let's hope that this pearl goes through happily. Whenever we get this far down, I am kind of sad because the pearls that I have are the ones that I have rejected already because they did not want to go in, or they did not want to allow my cording to go through. But so there's a lot of praying over these little things whenever I get to this point. Do you ever have days like that where you just have something that says, nope, I am not going to help you at all? But luckily, my little chain nose pliers always come to the rescue. Then once I have got that on, I am going to go ahead, there you go, and put on a daisy spacer so that I can put on this agate right after that. Remember, this is the same way we did it on the other point. If you wanted to do something different, that would be eye-catching and it would be lovely. But I am kind of a stick to what I have. Putting extra component at the very end, that is out of, as my friend says, her son says, that is out of my wheelhouse. But I'm always trying new things. All right, so once we put on the porcelain, we put on a daisy, the agate, another daisy, because we want to finish that off there. Then we're going to go back down to those beautiful little glass pearls. Even if they are hard to get on, they are such a beautiful, delicate, classic look. I just love these vintage look pieces. And once I remembered I could use my chain nose pliers to catch that little tip as opposed to my my fingers that have no fingernails, very little fingernail, then life was good. All right, then we go ahead and put on another gold seed bead and our orange coral, and then we are going to put on another seed bead just like that. I'm checking length to see where it comes out, and I really like that. So remember, if you want it to be longer on one side, make sure that when your second length in the necklace comes off off your breastbone, that the ends set in the same place. Now I have pulled out my number 1 crimps, and yes, that is taped at the bottom because it has, I'm sorry, my number 0 crimps. There you go. And because isn't that little? It has seen better days. I've dropped it on our stone floor many times and had to tape it back up with masking tape. As my daughter says, masking tape fixes everything, Mother. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this down. This time we're pulling the crimp to your tail component, as opposed to the way we did it the first time where we pulled everything down to the crimp. So you have to put the crimp on after everything is finished. I'm running my hands along the necklace to make sure there's no extra space. Now that I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, I'm going to mash across that crimp, flatten it across, and then take the point of your chain nose pliers and mash on each side of the cord, and that really closes that cord into the crimp. Then, for extra protection, because you don't want all your beads falling into the floor because the crimp let go, you're going to go ahead and cut it. Oh my, I've sped this up a little bit, and boy, you can really tell. You're going to cut it just like that. And then we're going to take our lighter and we're going to melt the end. I think sometimes they say burn. We don't really want to burn the end. We just want to melt it. Now, if you are using a cord that doesn't melt when you touch it to the cording, when you touch the lighter to the cording, see like that? See how that melts? And then I'm just tapping it down on my cold glass because I'm trying to save my fingers as much as possible. And it should look just like that. And that is not going anywhere. Even if that crimp was slightly loose, the fact that you have that teeny little ball of melted piece on the end will end up holding that in place. And it's just an extra precaution. If yours doesn't do that, if yours catches on fire and burns when you do the first side, take your crimp and do it just as you were doing a two-sided, where you encapsulate it with crimpers themselves, so that both sides, you would roll it up like you were going to put a charm on the end, catch both sides in the crimp, use a crimper, make an M, and then close the M, and that will work. All right, let's move on to our earrings. So for the matching earrings, we will be using all the elements that we used for the necklace, including, or in addition, we will also be adding these little clamshell ends. And they look just like the name says. They look like little clamshells. You're going to put through the bottom into where you'll close your clamshell, your cording. Then you're going to take, and these are number 1s. Remember, we've been using 0s, but we're going to be using number 1s. They're slightly bigger. You want the bigger so that it will fill up the hole that you just put your cord through. So once you get your cord through the back of your clamshell, you're going to add a number 1 crimp. And for the you're going to go ahead and mash it. Do not use your crimper. You want the flatness that this crimp will add across there, because you want, as I said, you want it to fill the hole that cord went through. Once I have done that, I'm going to take my lighter, and I'm going to go ahead and make that little melted dot on the end, mash it down, and I pulled it to make sure it's not going to come off. Then I just pull the clamshell all the way up and close it up. Now, when you close it up, make sure your little holes actually match up, because you will be putting a jump ring or an ear wire into that hole. Isn't that cute? I love these things. I don't get to use them very often, but I think they're really cute. And I love to finish off an end like this. And this is a great way to do corded earrings if you're only using a single strand. I do not know if 2 strands would go through the hole, but I know 2. You say, well, my cording is one of those that burns. Well, then go ahead and do your crimp, and then you have to very carefully tie a single knot or put a dab of glue and let it dry on the end. All right. So to finish this up, or to start this off, we have put on there you go. You've put on a 12-0 in the gold seed beads, and then you're putting on that orange coral, and then another seed bead. And then you're going to, I'm starting out first, cleaning out that pearl to see if I can't get it on here. And then you're going to go ahead and put on your pearl. And I have I have melted the end and pulled it so that it will go through this just a little better. You don't have to do that. If you are blessed with pearls that don't have this issue, then you don't have to do that. But I am not blessed with pearls. Actually, this is a great blessing. These pearls were given to me from a lady who used to do bridal things. And, she stopped doing that to work at a different business, and she brought me or actually her husband did, in our choir, brought me a whole box of these lovely little pearls in all sizes. And I have been using them for several years now. I know she must have sewn a lot of these pearls into pieces for brides. And because I have a lot of them and I use them a lot, and I still have pearls after all these years. All right, so I've gone ahead and put the pearl on. I'm doing a daisy spacer. Now, this is the tip. We're doing the tip of the necklace. Then we're going to go ahead and put on the agate, another daisy spacer. If we get it on just like that. And then we will go ahead and now, isn't that pretty? This makes a lovely earring. If you still have just a few of these beads left, but not enough to do a necklace, these are beautiful classic vintage earrings, and they would make a great addition to your collection, and they would make a wonderful gift. I know they will make a wonderful gift because my daughter, who is nowhere near my generation, because she was the last of many children, she came in and looked at these and she said, "Those are lovely, Mom. Those would be nice in my jewelry collection." But I made the necklace for myself and I don't have enough to do a second set, so oh well. Now, isn't that pretty? So again, this is just the tip. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to put on, let's see here, another one of the zeros that I have been working. I left those on. And that zero was mashed up. So I'm putting out a few more little zeros, and I'm going to go ahead and put one of those on, and we're going to do the same thing that we did for both tips in the necklace itself. So I'm putting a 0 on, and once I get that on, I'll bring it all the way down, and then I will go ahead and let's see, I'm trying desperately to get this on. At the end of the day, my hands shake more than they do at the beginning of the day. When I get tired, my hands get tired too. You know, I really appreciate that you come and you watch and you don't mind that sometimes I forget the word. I can see the picture, but I forget the word. And I've never had any comments about the way my hands shake, and I really appreciate that. I have heard people say, oh, blah blah blah, and I go, you know what, I have been blessed with people that watch my videos, and I think that they enjoy making jewelry just as much as I do, and they don't even seem to care that my hands shake like crazy. So I really want to thank you. That is such a blessing in my life. Okay, I've gone ahead and cut it, and we're going to just melt the little tip right there to make sure these earrings stay together, and then we'll be ready to put them on a ear wire. Any ear wire, this will go with any ear wire. As I said, I wear clips. I am allergic to everything. And so I am going to make these clip earrings. And there's our second one. I went ahead and did that one. And these are ready for the ear wires themselves. If I was doing it and I had pierced ears, I would put these on lever backs because this is a very classic vintage look. And the lever backs look similar to what they used when this was in high fashion. And also lever backs, because of the way they close, as my daughter says, they're less likely to work the backs out and you lose your earring. So I've cleaned this all up, and I'm going to put my necklace out to show you this part. Isn't that pretty? Now see, that's just real pretty. That will make a lovely set. I just love it. Right, let's take my chain nose pliers. I'm going to go ahead and just use my clips that I normally do. I do have lever back clips, but for this one, I like the large button that they have there. So one of the things that I am very careful with whenever I open these is you have to be so careful when you're opening that, the circle on the back itself, because they will break off. They're very sturdy once they're closed, but if you twist it just the wrong way, it will break off, and I have lost many a clip that way. But I've gone ahead and put on my component. I'm closing that up, and make sure it's closed. You want it to stay on, and isn't that pretty? And the larger of the little gold circle at the top of those, it sets it off. At least for me. I've worn clips for many years, and I just love it. So let's go ahead. We've opened that one up. We're going to get that on there just like that. And we're going again with a very gentle motion. Don't put too much pressure on it because it'll snap before you know it. I'm just doing a slight rocking. It looks like I'm just manhandling it, but that's because I've sped this up a little bit. And now I have both of these earrings finished. Again, fish hooks would be pretty on this. Lever backs would be pretty on this. Studs with the circle at the bottom would be pretty. It's what you like to wear. What do you wear in your ears? I would like to know that. That would be really cool. What do you prefer? Now, isn't this pretty? This is that beautiful necklace, and it is just lovely. I love the orange coral that came in this set, along with those beautiful orange and they're called an orange floral porcelain. Now, we had received some porcelain beads in a different bead box bargain bead box a couple of months ago. So you might want to check in your stash. They were not this color, but I bet if you look around, you could make one of these necklaces in a different color scheme. It would have the same classic look. It would have that same vintage look, and it is just perfect. Now, I just do a single loop when I do mine, and I am just messing with this. Okay, but again, I wanted to make sure that I had the length so it could be staggered. I have seen a lady that does the seed beads, and she does 2 ends coming off. And if I can study on it and figure out how to do that, I may make one of those one day for me. But I'm a single person right now, make a single strand person. And I just love this. It is so pretty. Isn't that lovely? And doesn't that staggered look it's just lovely. And I think it's a great use for these porcelain beads and that gradual building up and then gradually building back down on the components. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Hey, let me show you some pictures. I just love it when we get to the picture time. Don't you? Okay, here we go. Again for joining me today. Isn't this a beautiful piece? I really do hope that you look around in your stash. If you have some of these left, this is a beautiful combination with that green and that orange coral. But anything where you are using a 5mm, a 6mm, oh, actually it's a 4, a 5, a 6, and a 10mm. You can do the same thing with. So check it out. Look around. Make your own plan. Do your own colors. That's the joy of beading, that you get to make the pieces that you love and your friends will love. God bless you and God keep you safe. Until we meet next time, Kathryn, Handmade by Circle Art Designs. God bless y'all. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.